Finishing a home really takes a lot of thought. You know, there's more than just slapping some paint up on the wall and calling it a finish. You really have to work with professionals on this and come to, decisions about what you need to do. Am I going to do bright colors or contrast or other stuff? But you really need to bring in some experts. So today I've had Chris McNeil of Fine Painting and Venetian Plaster coming in, and he's going to help talk about some of the different things. Hey Chris, how are you?
Good, thanks.
He's really an industry expert on that. He's really been at it for a while. He can do all unique finishes and stuff, and I'll let him kind of fill in for what's involved in picking wall colors and finishes.
First thing I look for on a project, it's a bit intangible. I look for a really good design and a really enthusiastic homeowner, architect, builder, designer.
Oh, okay.
When I get on the job, I know I'm going to put everything into it. So I want to be involved with people that are like-minded so we can be on the same page.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The first thing you really need to do, though, is figure out the scope of the job. Do you want different colors in each room? Do you want to break up a room within that room color-wise? Do you want unique sheens on different surfaces? I've done jobs where you want to put a gloss on a ceiling.
Really?
You need to do a lot of preparation in advance of that to make sure it comes out properly. So these are all the things that you need to take into account.
So when you say sheen, what are we talking about on here?
This is a basic chart showing the sheens of the paints. It starts with a flat finish. There's an eggshell finish, which is often used on walls. It's got a little bit of a sheen, so it's wipeable. It also gives a lot of light reflection in the room. But once you start getting into the eggshell, pearl, satin, and semi-gloss, your walls need to be near perfect.
Oh, okay.
The taping job here was excellent, but you'd even take a further step of making sure it's as close to perfect as possible.
Like sand and prime a few times?
Exactly. You sand back your primer. You consider your primer a surfacer, so you're making a uniform finish on the wall to receive this coat of eggshell.
Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh. Wow.
Really, there's no limit to what you can do. There are a million possibilities of how to decorate a home.
Wow. Well, that brings right into, we have a wall right here that the architects have defined as a feature wall. I mean, what would be some thoughts to do on something like this?
Well, the most basic idea you could use is to use a separate color on a feature wall, just to bring your eye to it. And in this case, I see it's opposite the niche wall from the entry.
Right.
You could do similar finishes on opposite ends to draw the two spaces together. You certainly could do a polished plaster on this wall and a higher gloss polished plaster on the other wall.
Okay.
Maybe with a mica fleck in the plaster, which gives a little bit of reflection.
Ooh, wow.
It's very subtle. It's not gaudy at all. It might sound like it's over the top, but it's a very subtle finish, a sandy finish, very natural, organic. Those are just some basic ideas. I mean, once you get a floor down and you get other finished elements in the room, then we can bring in samples and boards and do mock-ups, and that's when you can really see how some of these ideas would work.
And now, does light have an effect? Like, you came in and you did some colors over here that we were kind of looking at, and you can even see that they're different colors.
The light is the main factor. As you can see, the smaller wall to the right is in shadow, so it appears like it's a different color. It looks a shade or so darker, I would say. The wall on the left has indirect light. It's not sunlight, it's on the north side, but the yellow shows in that tone also. So you get that bouncing around everywhere in the room. If you pick a good color, it'll look different on every surface in the room, or it may look different on every surface in the room. And I think in some cases less is more. You don't need 5 colors in a home. You need good architecture, good light, and good implementation of the colors.
Right. Yeah, so I like the fact that you're going around, you put a few on the wall there just to get a feel for, in a shadow, in a light, direct sunlight, and we'll see how that goes. It's really haven't finalized the color yet, but we're leaning towards something like that. That's nice.
This is the way to do it, though. Looking at color chips is really a starting point. You need to take many steps beyond that. Even a square sample board of color, you thought you might like that, you need to see it on the wall, and then you need to see it on every wall.
Now, Chris, like a wall like this that you had already primed and painted, I mean, we talked about that different levels of finish. Is there any way you can elaborate on there? What the little nuances or what the difference?
Sure, the primer is only the starting point, and obviously before that you need a real high quality taping job. The taping needs to be spread out long enough that you're not wide enough that you're not going to see the bulge in the wall. It's got to be primed really well, and then the next step after this, believe it or not, this still needs to be sanded. This
Okay.
needs to be brought so it's as smooth as possible. If you want a higher level finish, which is clearly appropriate for this house, on a scale of say 1 to 5, we're looking at a 4. You know, you want not an over the top finish, you want a good quality finish. You need to sand this again, make sure there's no dust on the surface, and then get your finish coat on it. And these are steps, they're so basic and so simple, but they're totally necessary and often overlooked. And over the course of a job or a whole home, if you do that consistently, you get a much superior finish on the wall.
Right.
It doesn't hold grit, it stays clean longer, it's got a softer look on it. You don't know what time of the day different lights are going to come in and bounce off the wall. So the better your finish in regards to your preparation and putting the paint on in full, even
Right.
coats, the better the result is going to be.
Okay,
in the long term.
well, for me, I know what to expect because of the quality of the work you do and
Right.
fully engaged, as we say. But somebody out there watching and they want to hire a painter, how do they tell them or convey across what they want? Because to the average person, I need my room's painted or whatever. It's
Right.
$200 or whatever it happens to be. And you go in there, I mean, I'm sure it's quality of paint and workmanship, but what should somebody look for when hiring?
What works for me would also work for the customer. I get all of my work through referrals.
Okay.
So they should ask somebody who they have a similar like-mindedness with, who likes the same quality things. Ask them for a recommendation and see the person's work.
Okay.
And don't hesitate to ask questions.
Right.
I often have people tell me, oh, they had a contractor come in and they're unhappy about this, that, and the other. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, well, did you tell them that? Did you talk about this? Did he bring this up? Was it out in the open in the beginning?
Right.
So that's the key. It's communication.
Maybe they never liked the color, you know, they
Right.
picked it, but then they didn't like it, so
Right.
they didn't like the job, you know?
But there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of communication to get to the level finish that you want.
Well, that's great, Chris. It's really been helpful in
Thank
doing
you.
this. I think we just kind of gave a quick overview of what to think about when hiring. Like you say, referrals are important, good quality products, and number one, knowing what the customer client wants or expects of a job. You know, no sense trying to do that museum quality when they're really just looking for, hey, I just want a color change and
Right.
just to make it okay because what's underneath it's not that great. You know,
Right.
so. Yeah, that's all informative. Again, I never really knew about anything. I only thought that, you hire somebody, because have been doing our projects for so long that that part never really comes up. It's just kind of
Right.
given that, I'm going to get this quality of workmanship and never really say, hey, how do you define and how do you characterize that? So that was great. That was good
Very good.
input. All right, Chris, thank you.
You're very
Appreciate your
welcome,
help.
Dave. Okay.
That was awesome. Chris gave us some really good tips on there. What to look for, different sheens, the way light reflects off a wall. It's great stuff. That's why you have to deal with professionals. Really, when you're doing projects, you really get involved. You can do a lot yourself, but you need to be guided and things done right. I try to, let professionals do what they do best. I could do some other things, but again, we're talking eco-friendly. There's another thing to talk about, VOCs. It's not just the price of the paint, it's the finish you're going to get and all these things. So I think we were able to sum and bring all that stuff together. That was awesome.